Good evening, everybody. This is Cinnamon Noir.
And this is the Ramen Shaman.
Welcome to Princess Remedy in a Heap of Trouble. This was recently put out by Ludosity, who originally did the Princess Remedy in a World of Hurt, which we did earlier. I didn't remember what they actually did that for originally. It was for a games jam called Games for Ebola, which is just a great name for a game jam. But anyway, this is actually a commercial release, but it's very cheap. It's only $2.99, and it's a very fun game, so I recommend you all play it. I mean, it's worth it for this picture of Remedy alone. I mean, this is pretty hot for pixel art.
Oh my.
Oh my. Racy. No. Actually, I enjoyed for the mechanics, which we'll be getting to in just a moment. It just occurred to me, saying I enjoyed for the mechanics is like saying you read Playboy for the articles. Well, you may have noticed just there from me talking to him again, that's a special mechanic in this game where you can date anyone. You know how you could get married to people at the end of the last game? This is kind of like an elaboration on that. Dating is not just like a cosmetic thing, though. They'll follow you around the overworld, but they also give you special abilities in battle. This is Hurtland. Do you remember her from the last game? She's the one who was brokenhearted because Remedy wouldn't date her.
Not really, but I'll take your word for it.
So I'm just going to completely ruin continuity by agreeing to date her now. I've created a time paradox. Here we need to help this boy in the corner of shame. He should be ashamed if he can't swim. I mean, that's a tiny puddle. Here I was showing off Hurtland's special ability, which is heal. Lots of characters in this game actually have this ability. It's pretty simple, though, kind of boring. It just heals you for some damage. The drowning boy, who's still called that even though we helped him not drown. Go figure.
You think it would qualify as boring but practical?
It does, actually. It does. But I don't like boring but practical, so we won't see it again. So now let's help this kid. He's turned invisible, which is also a disease. There's just lots of weird diseases going around.
That does seem like an odd disease.
But now that we've healed him, he glows in multiple colors. So this sounds like the kind of guy I want to hang out with, so let's date him. So since you can date people in this game, each NPC tends to have a lot more dialogue options, which I find fun. I always like the quirky nature of Ludosity's dialogue. This is the dark angle, and yeah, that is a pretty terrible joke. His boss arena is made up entirely of integrals. Don't know if you noticed. It's an integral from heart to infinity, which is nonsense. You can't make anything out of that. This is the worst math ever. Also, he talks entirely in puns. So I'm not...
Yeah.
I was going to say I'm not going to date him, but apparently past self disagrees. In order to get past this door, you actually do have to date it. So yeah, let's date a door. Games allow you to do all kinds of wonderful things.
The doors, I'd make a joke about it.
Oh yeah, that is something about Jim Morrison. I also like how our pills, now that they've been upgraded 2 times, have become Tylenol. Reminds me of that joke from... Have you ever seen the original Airplane? The parody movie?
I don't think so.
Where basically it's just a disaster movie about a plane, but at one point they ask this really...
wait, of course I have. What
yeah, and they ask the silly guy at the airport, can you describe the plane? And he says, oh, it's a big pretty red plane with white wheels, and it basically looks like a big Tylenol. I'm really bad at psyching people out. This is kind of a curious boss fight. You fight razor blades and teeth that are going around this place. And there's also, of course, a bunch of teeth just in this area. I think this is like a reference to Halloween candy or something, potentially. You know, the mouth, the razor blades. No, actually, it's just nonsensical.
Yeah, I was wondering.
No. But anyway, this is mostly a simple fight. I'm not sure if you have to destroy the razor blades to do this. They might keep spawning from the other ends. But mostly what you have to do is just dodge these projectiles that the mouth is sending out. They go pretty fast. However, if you keep up the attack, this guy goes down very quickly. And that gives... Anyway, here's a kind of goofy snake. You may have noticed from the outside that he's going all the way through the floor and like down hundreds of feet.
Yeah.
And he's dead inside.
You know what I'm thinking of right now? But that's
what?
Just I'm a massive Dark Souls fan.
Uh-huh.
Kingseeker Frampt.
Yeah, you're right. He does look kind of like Frampt, doesn't he? I'd like to say that he's more goofy than Frampt, but Frampt actually is pretty goofy considering the universe he's in.
Frampt is extremely goofy, and that's kind of what I love about him.
And one thing I love about this is that the sides of the encounter arena in this are literally this snake's body. And you can just destroy him. You can actually also destroy him by dating him, which I will show right here, because you know how you can only be followed by something that's 1 pixel tall?
Mm-hmm.
Well, his head just literally leaves the rest of his body behind.
That is amazing.
Isn't it? I feel like they should make this guy their mascot. You know, ditch the apathetic frog. He's so depressing. So let's get rid of Kid Cranium because his power sucks, and let's get Beppo back. Another sentence that sounds amazing outside of context. Here's the ritual grounds. This is one of the kind of the weirdest and creepiest parts of this game. There's nothing here except this chest. And all of these tiki heads with flaming, you know, flames on top of them. Flaming flames. I'm a real poet when it comes to describing games, aren't I? Anyway. Hallucinogens.
It would be funny if the ultimate pills in the game were like Percocet or something, or Oxycontin.
Here, I will heal all of you by making you not give a shit about your pain. I mean, I feel like stuff like Oxycontin, it barely even is a painkiller. More what it does is just drugs you out so much you don't notice the pain.
Well, it's a very strong opiate.
I know. I was talking to this with my sister the other day, actually, because she's a nurse. And I was talking about the fact that people used to use laudanum to do a lot of the same things that they use Percocet and Oxycontin today. And laudanum was literally just morphine in a suspension of alcohol.
Yeah, that is what I've heard.
And people didn't know how bad it was. They would feed it to babies, for Christ's sake, just to get them to shut up. You might also have noticed with that last power upgrade we got, that we're no longer shooting out pills. Now we're shooting out syringes. Which, kids, do not do that at home. It is the opposite of healing people. If you see a syringe on the beach, do not pick it up. Let adults deal with it. Sonic says.
Oh well.
Anyway, here I'm showing off the special ability of the bird thing that I'm having, the one I call the grouse. It's called Blast, and when you use it, it basically emits a little thing of energy all around Remedy. That can be useful as sort of a half-offensive, half-defensive tactic when you need to get rid of enemies around you quickly because they're doing too much damage. That back there was just a little dance I was doing to celebrate this grouse friend that I have. I value him very highly. This is just like a little egg barn. It's just a barn full of eggs. But the weirdest thing is that you can walk through some of them.
That is odd.
I do not understand how that works. Maybe they're the ones that are over soft. Actually, that's not even a thing. It's over easy. I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's go to this next place. That sprite's a little difficult to figure out. I'm pretty sure this is like a tank girl. Not like the movie Tank Girl.
Not like... I was gonna guess the comic.
There's it is based on a comic, isn't it? No, it's just a girl with the body of a tank, which is not what Tank Girl is.
Although there's an anime-inspired game where it's like a tank dating simulator.
Oh, look, bicycle accidents have decreased since the Don't Think of Wash Olaf While Biking campaign started. Very good. If you're a girl under the age of 12 and you're high on marijuana, don't ride your bike. There's another reference I wouldn't know except for AMV Hell.
Yep.
I'm very sad about AMV Hell going south, aren't you?
Yeah.
That was really sad the day that happened. Anyway, here we've saved Casual Man. We're not gonna save him because... Sorry, we're not gonna date him because his ability is backstep and it's terrible. Actually, this little girl who has a tank body does kind of remind me of Tarkus, the Emerson, Lake and Palmer album, which has like an armadillo with a tank body. One of the weirdest album covers in history. Have you ever seen that album cover?
No.
I had to show it to you. It is so like goofy 70s sci-fi, and the best part is it wasn't even originally made for the album. They saw this guy's art at an exhibition, and they were like, this is amazing. We need to make an album on this theme of an armadillo tank. Anyway, so I have taken Tara the Tank Girl with me to help me on this next boss. It's kind of a strange one. I think those are supposed to be beaks at the top left and right, because it's in, you know, this is all about birds. But what makes this boss tough is that basically the more you fight it, the more it fights back. Every time you hit it, it starts to get basically more shooty,
It's one of those.
It's one of those. And then later on, they start to shoot those tracking or homing bullets. This can get really tricky. Basically, this boss fight is fairly easy at the beginning and fairly easy at the end, but the middle is brutal. So you gotta be very careful. Like many boss fights in this game, it's all about management. Managing the bullets on screen, your own motion, and how many enemies you have to deal with. Once you've gotten down to 2, you're probably close to being finished with it. These borders are all really colorful and interesting. It's one of the things I like about bosses in this game. In general, that's something they changed about this one. In the original, the borders of the, fight screen were pretty simple. Here, they're very elaborate. Like, even plain enemies will have their own special wallpapers, as it were.
It's a little weird like that, because on the other hand, like, Ill Girl is kind of a...
Who's Ill Girl?
Ill Girl, like a girl whose role in the plot is just to be sick.
Oh, yeah. Like in all of those animes that I watch. Totally. And
one of your Japan animes.
It's just like one of my Japanese animes. No,
Is that actually a line from Otakon?
I don't know. I think Egoraptor may have made that up. So let's enter the fancy castle and save this pile of glowing dirt. It says shimmering, so I guess that guy's supposed to be a ring, but it just looks like a pile to me. Big pile.
Yeah.
Jesus. This is almost the point where the regular encounters start to become as difficult as the bosses.
Ouch.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, wasn't that kind of a Final Fantasy thing?
Yes, it actually is. That's a good point.
Final
Although obviously
Fantasy
the
VI,
style
I
of
think it
fighting
was.
is very different here. Oh no, even at the very beginning, even at the first Final Fantasy, there were random encounters that were harder than the final boss. The war mech on the flying machine, for instance. So let's go into this very small tent and save this guy with a sore back, which he probably got from living in a tent. Again, self-inflicted problems.
Yeah.
Oh well. You know what they say, if you massage a man's back, he'll be happy for a little while, but if you teach him to massage his own back, that doesn't really work, does it?
Stop looking at you so weird.
He needs to have really long hands. So, who knows? That doesn't really work. I love this bookcase. It's like a adventure diary, and it says day 27. Still no sign of Wash Olaf. It's like one of those Captain Scott and Oates situations, except Wash Olaf just pieced out and never went back. He's kind of a jerk, I think. I don't know, it's the funny thing, is that you don't actually know much about Wash Olaf, even though they talk about him all the time. What's his personality? What's he like? Who knows? He's just an informative NPC who's there to give exposition. Yeah, this isn't too fun. Let's go into the Castle of Prince, which sounds like it was badly translated from the Japanese.
Nah.
Yeah, this is Prince S. It's bound to
It
cause
could
some
be
confusion.
a castle for an artist who's now no longer known as Prince.
Indeed. Or ex-prince, yeah. So we're a princess, and at the end we could get married to Prince S.
Oh god.
And Princess Valium. Sorry, it's the hair. And here it is, the heart and soul of Boss Tower, who doesn't like Remedy because she's healing people. And he doesn't want that. But he says he's only been made more resistant to the medicine. Because, superbugs and germs.
Sure.
Because that's totally a thing. Anyway, let's get started. You might recognize this as being somewhat similar to the format of the boss of the original game. There's basically 3 targets, each of which is something really weird. I love the little TV guy in the middle. It's a shame I get rid of him first. But it is kind of fun that when you do it, it looks kind of like a mouth with a tongue in it for the eyeball on top. And then finally this sad face in the bottom. Let's put him out of his misery. There we go. And we ascend up the tower again to fight. Very weird collection here. It's like a... What's that thing in the middle? It looks kind of like a pear. I love these bullets that kind of move in like a waltz pattern. It's very tricky. You have to get yourself adjusted to the rhythm of it. You know what I'm talking about, right? The little circular ones? This is the point where it gets bullet hell.
Yeah.
Although not as bullet hell as it can get, as you'll see later. One nice thing
You
about
know
this...
those slips at the bottom, realized they remind me of the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, it is kind of like that, isn't it? Did you know that logo was inspired by Kali, the Hindu
I
goddess?
did not.
Yeah, I just figured that out. I just got told that the other day. It's interesting. I love this screen. First of all, we have the shark with like what looks like a blonde toupee on it. And then the skull at the top, which is like a skull apple. Although I have to say, depending on what order you defeat these things in, it can get kind of easy at the end. I love the expression on that shark when you beat him. He's just like, oh, no you didn't. So yeah, once again, we're seeing this combination of slow and fast shots can really mess you up. And oh my gosh. I'm embarrassed with myself. I think I've got maybe one hit left at this point. But they're very generous, actually. Not only do they heal between stages, but they heal between this and the next one. Even though you could argue this is the same stage.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, jeez. I'm pretty sure the big bullets do more damage than the small ones, although I could be wrong. It would make sense. The big ones are easier to avoid. When this first starts out, this pattern's very easy to avoid. It's only when he starts spitting out those little rhombus things that it starts to get really tricky. Because you have to move forward to get past them to start with, and then backward to avoid them. Basically, I guess what I'm saying is, when he has the original sequence of shots, you can just stay in one place and move a little bit left and right. Once these rhombus things come in, you have to start moving around in a square. Every single round of these things. And that makes it much more complicated, having to position yourself in two types of directions at once. You can't just strafe, in other words. You have to be actively moving around all the time. And naturally, anytime you're not facing directly forward, you're not shooting him, so you're not making any progress. And we can date Princess, who's been stuck in his throne room for a long time, so let's date him. And also, we can go into this car, this very fancy car, which seems to be moving backwards, but whatever. I don't think Remedy can drive. So, whoever you're dating when you end, basically you end the game with them in a little party. That's how this game does the ending thing. So, like the last one... Sorry, go ahead.
Do you not get to choose this time, or...?
No, you choose. Whoever you're dating when you go into the car.
Oh.
And the credits are DDR, which I actually think is really cool. Not only that, depending on who you end the game with, it's a different song in the credits. That's pretty neat. Although I like the Princess one. That's probably the best one for the credits. So you could call this the true credits theme. But no, like the last one, this game, when you finish it, basically has a finished save file, and then you can go and date anyone and go in the car with them.
Nice.
There's now going to be cars actually all over the place, not just in the palace, but basically anywhere, so that it's really easy to get alternate endings. I was pretty good. Depending on... So this is the true ending for me. It's Remedy marries Pierre the robot, because he's much better than Princess. And he'll be the belle of the ball. Command prompt talents dance more moves.txe. The only problem is this is actually a really hard DDR game. This may be the hardest song to end on in the game. It's like a, I don't know, like an old Nintendo robot song. I guess it's appropriate. But, yeah. Man, I wish this game had a soundtrack I could buy. I also wish I was better at robo-dancing. Yeah, I wish for lots of things.
Oh, well.
Who knows? Maybe eventually they will put out the soundtrack of this. It's certainly got a much better soundtrack than the original game, which was made in 72 hours.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so apparently I didn't hit it off too well with the robot. Pity me. No, let's actually go here. And, I don't know if you remember, but do you remember what the end boss from the last game looked like? The weird little king guy who was sitting on top of a conch shell?
I remember it looking like a totem pole.
Yeah, well, this is that guy. And he says, we refuse to accept the existence of pain. Which in a sense is kind of true. By healing it, we don't let it happen. So this is that guy. And he is the actual post-credits end boss. And yeah, this gets pretty crazy after a little while. The thing about this guy is you don't actually do any damage to him. Instead, when you hit him enough, you knock him back a little bit. And you have to knock him back off of his little perch in order to beat him.
That's weird.
It is. But there is one thing you might have noticed, which is, what was one of the big changes they made to this game compared to the original? Well, the biggest gameplay change, I'll just come right out and tell you, is the ability to date people and get special powers from them.
Yeah.
Yet I'm just using the robot who has the big flask power. And it's probably occurred to you, at least, that the big flask power doesn't help much against a guy who doesn't take direct damage, and who doesn't have, you know, a lot of hit points to hit in a wide range.
So you should be dating someone different?
Yes, that's the message. It's just like the message of high fidelity. No, but,
Okay.
sorry. Can you guess what power would be really helpful in this boss? Think about all the ones we've done,
No.
like Blast and Laser and stuff like that.
One that caused more knockback, presumably.
Actually, there is no thing that causes more knockback in this game, because most enemies don't get knocked back at all. This is the only enemy in the game who does it. Really, the knockback for him is just a variation on damage. But I actually thought this was kind of cool and philosophical when I did it, so the answer is not him. It's nothing about him. It's something that's wrong with me. To beat this boss, I don't need to do something to him. I need to change myself. I've been approaching this in the wrong direction. I've been approaching it like it is, you know, a shooting game. Which it kind of is. But what this really is, I'm sure you'd agree, is a game about healing, right?
So you need...
So I need heal.
Oh, duh.
So here we go. Now I have finally become a true healer. And I believe in myself and all of that nonsense you'd find in anime. So I'm gonna win. It would be appropriately ironic at this point if I actually did lose now, but I am gonna win. Just letting you know.
Yep. So is the fight actually beatable the way you were doing it?
Probably. You have to be really, really careful about your maneuvering. The thing about heal, though, is that it is essentially a kind of easy mode. I hadn't been using it for most of the game, even though it could have helped against almost every single boss. Heal restores about a quarter of your health at max health, which is actually quite a big deal. You basically have 2.5 full heals. More important than you might think, especially since this guy, like most bosses, gets a steadily denser pattern of bullets as he goes on. The bullets come faster and there are more of them. The hardest of all the bullet patterns has got to be this one, the one where he sends out multiple ones and then they sort of go perpendicularly from the original bullet. Yeah, this one. The thing is, though, if you can actually interrupt him in the middle of that, and that makes it much easier to stop the bullets. But again, it's all about timing. Timing's very important here. So here's where I first use heal, because I'm starting to get overwhelmed here. And you'll notice I'm already doing much better than I did in the original one. I've got him about where I was when I died last time, but I still have most of my health. And I have 7 heals left. So yeah, this is really the way you want to do it if you want to beat this boss without being a complete wizard about it. I was really tense when I did this. I know you haven't played it, so you don't quite get the feel of this game, but you definitely can get a little jittery when you've been moving around all over the place and playing the game for an hour. You feel like you keep
that feeling from video games.
Exactly. Before. You feel like you're running into the bullets, but actually the hitboxes are a little more generous than you might think. That, I think, is the essence of Touhou. The reason why people like it so much is that Touhou requires you to sort of have a different feeling about the bullets than you would ordinarily. You realize that the hitboxes are more generous than you might think, and so it's more a question of getting the rhythm of it and knowing what the bullets do than having to avoid literally every single bullet. You know what I mean? It's like a Zen thing.
Yeah.
And we go with Therese to the new ballroom with its fancy curtains and such. And this, finally, is the true credit sequence, where we can rest. Ah, I forgot, Therese has 3 arms, so she doesn't know where to put her 3rd arm. Go figure. Yeah, I probably should have picked someone else to date for the end, because this is kind of a boring song. Oh well. But you can just appreciate the decorations in the background. We have some lanterns hanging up now. I'm not sure if the moon was there before. We've got some nice plants, and then the curtains, which have this nice gradient on them. I kind of like how in this game, the way the graphics work, everything is in a square, but they still try to replicate gradients. It's like what cell shading does, to create big blocks of color that have to represent real things anyway. But anyway, enough graphics chat. Thank you everyone for watching this. I hope you've enjoyed it. This is a great game.